your girl, Anne with an E.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Root of the Science podcast with your girl, Anne with an E. I am back, and this is episode 76. You know, we took a bit of time off to recenter, regroup, and I'm really, really excited to be back today. And without any further ado, you always remember that if you are new here, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you are an old member, as always, I'm so happy to have you back and for listening and for the support. And remember, you can listen to the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast: Apple, Spotify, Google, Podbean, etc. Now, let's get into today's episode. My guest today is Chris from Nigeria. He's a master's student in mathematics and data science at TMU in Germany. In this episode, we learn that Chris wanted to be an inventor when he was younger. His parents instilled a culture of reading, nurtured that dream. This enabled him to learn more about being an inventor and also about changing the world's problems and finding solutions to them. This went hand in hand with his interest in math and physics. Chris values the fact that his parents let him choose his own path after completing high school. He decided his route would be mathematics and then applied for a scholarship to study abroad. He received a scholarship to pursue his bachelor's degree in Russia. We talk about his time in Russia and how he managed to transition from Nigeria into a foreign country. He also discusses his relocation to Germany, where he is currently based. Chris' childhood dream about being an inventor has come true. He is now the co-initiator of EdIA, which is working on natural language processing for low-resource African languages. He explains how he became involved and the significance of this project. I also discussed with him all of this and so much more. Take a listen. Hi, Chris. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. I'm really excited. This has been long overdue, and I'm glad that we've finally got the time to do this.
Yeah. I'm very glad to be here too. Yeah, I've been looking forward to the podcast for some time now.
Oh, fantastic. So, Chris, just to get everybody familiar with you, can you just give us a quick introduction? Who is Chris? Where are you from? Where are you currently based? And in short, what are you doing?
Okay, I am Chris Emezue, aka Chris J. I was born in Nigeria, Abia, so I am Nigerian. I did my bachelor's in Russia, so I lived there for 5 years. So I consider a part of me to also be Russian in a way. What I'm doing now, I'm doing my master's in TUM Germany right now, master's in data science, and yeah, that's it.
Okay, perfect. So, as everybody knows who's been listening to that show, is that before we get into the science and everything that you do, I just would like to get to know you away from all of that. So I have like a specific question. It's very, different, but I want you to humor me. I want you to humor me. Okay, so I wanted to ask you, if you would be cast in a movie or series, what would you choose? And also, what character from that series would you be?
Well, okay, one thing about me, I love what we call cartoons or animations. Not the Japanese, Naruto kai ones. No, I mean like the cartoons. Yeah, I love them since I was young. So one cartoon that I really like that just comes to my mind for no special reason is just Monsters, Inc. It's about someone everyone is overlooking because he's short and doesn't look monster enough to do the job, and this person ends up rising to to surpass all expectations and beat the scale and even destroy the scale because it was too much. So yeah, I like the idea and the character in that people could overlook you or not even pay attention to you, and undermine you or underestimate you, and you should not let that get to you. You should keep fighting for what you're passionate about, and one day you might end up, hitting the scale and even going past it. So yeah, that's the character I would like to be, I think.
Wow, I love that. When you mention Monsters Inc., for me, it takes me back to primary school when it came out.
Yeah.
So it just took me all the way back. And also, I love how you've given this analogy. I would have never thought of it like that, but it's absolutely so cool how we can learn such valuable lessons.
Yeah,
From
my mom always told me that cartoons are like the best movies in the world because they're the one thing I could say, the only thing that you learn something from, something that helps you in life, like a kind of, an attribute in life that will really help you. Films could teach you maybe about money or love or things like that, but cartoons teach you these values of life that really help you. So yeah, even though I'm like 20 something now, I still I don't care. I'm watching my cartoons when I want to.
Oh yeah, I'm with you there. I love my cartoons as well. I love it. And this makes me, I hope it also makes somebody go back and watch Monsters Inc. again because it's been years.
Yeah, that's true.
I really want to go
been years, but I still remember it. Can you imagine? I remember it very well, even though it's been like when I was young, that's when I watched it. So it's really powerful, the lessons you learn from them.
And it's quite funny that you kind of only remember these lessons only later when you're older. Like when you're young, you just watch it for the sake of watching it. But then now you look back and you reflect and you're like, oh my goodness. That
is so true. That is so true. Yes, adulthood for you.
Yeah. Speaking of, going back to our childhood and going back to the beginnings when we were younger, I think then this just gives us the perfect breakaway for us to get to know you. So I'm quite curious. Before you were the Chris that you are now in your 20-somethings, in having the opportunity to study abroad in Russia and Germany now, what were some of the influences? Did you always know that science is something that you wanted to do? How did you even get here? So take us back and give us the root of your science.
Okay, I'll take you back memory lane. I could talk for like a month plus, but I'll try to keep it short and go straight to the details. So growing up, I had this interesting desire. I remember my mom asked me, who do you want to be in future? And I said, I wanted to be an inventor. So my mom, let me take you back before that. My mom taught and dad, they're reading freaks. They read a lot, big library, everything. So I grew into this culture of reading and learning about the world through reading. So I used to read, not as much as them, but I used to try to read. Also, my mom bought this a poster of world inventors and their inventions. So I used to take my time just learning them, the radio, the piano, the phones, who invented this, who invented that. I sort of now grew into this desire to be an inventor, to create something that will change the world, as funny as it sounded. So I would tell people I want to be an inventor, and it sounded weird to them because, people are like, I want to be an engineer or a doctor, but I'm like, inventor. Then growing up, going through secondary school, I discovered mathematics, my love for maths. Of course, at first I didn't just love it. I remember at first maths was just a normal subject to me, and it was some one or two people seeing how intelligent they were and they were with maths and trying to solve questions with maths, that I slowly got this love for maths. What I really got a love for was solving problems. So you have a problem and you're trying to solve it, I don't know any other subject that does that. They give you a problem and say, find the solution. Then you're trying to find the solution, and sometimes you fail, sometimes you pass, and you have to, if you fail, you have to get up and keep trying. If you pass, that's good. Next solution, next problem, even a more difficult one this time. So I grew to love this thing of finding solutions to problems. And I now made it like my life's work. So an inventor is someone who invents things to help people, right? So I want to be an inventor and someone who solves problems. So then I didn't know like what area it would be under. I didn't know it was called science. I just knew that mathematics and physics and chemistry were under something they called science, and then law and these ones were arts. And I didn't really care. I just loved the idea of finding solutions to problems, which I found more in mathematics. So I grew up with this love for mathematics. Finished high school. It was time to enter university, and that's when you have to make the big decision in your life what you want to study. Fortunately, and I am very, very blessed for my parents, because where I grew up in, the parents make the decisions for the kids usually. So if your kid is smart, you're a doctor. If your kid is not so smart, okay, I'll manage you. You're a lawyer. And that's like the trend where I grew up in. But my parents were enlightened. And so they allowed me to choose what I wanted to be. So I always had this thing of fixing things. So I was caught between mathematics, electrical engineering, because that was where this fixing, appliances was into electrical engineering. And I didn't know which one to choose and, which one would give me the passion I wanted. And then I got this very good advice from my mom and from other people. And it was like, so mathematics is like at the root of all things, all these things that, that leads to, also my dad was also advising me to go into computer too, because he was like, that's the future. So I had all these influences and all these, choices. And I discovered that mathematics is at the root of them. So the core element of mathematics was the core element of what I loved as a child. That's solving problems, trying to find solutions to problems. So I decided to go with mathematics, such that if in the future, when I'm sure of myself, then I want to go to electrical engineering or physics or something else, or computer science, I can easily go there without having to like turn my life around or something like that. So that's how I ended up choosing mathematics for my undergraduate. And so that's one part of my story that explains why I did mathematics in my undergraduate and how I ended up with mathematics and data science for my master's. The other side of my story is my deep desire to get a scholarship. At a young age, I always wanted to have a scholarship because I didn't want my parents to. So, of course, we were not like the richest parents. My parents tried to, work and provide for us as much as possible. It was hard too. So I didn't want my parents to start worrying about my education when it was my turn. I mean, I had a twin sister already, so like that was enough. We all were two, actually three, plus my other brother. So I had this burning desire to get a scholarship, because I felt that was the only way to be financially independent from my family, so they don't have to worry about my studies. So at a young age, I kept trying. Probably that's what made me to read a lot and try my best. I wrote SAT exams. My mom sponsored me, supported me in that area. So it was, that's how I ended up in Russia, because I got a scholarship coincidentally when I wasn't expecting it anymore. I got a scholarship to do my bachelor's in Russia, and I quickly went for it. So yeah, that's my childhood story in a nutshell.
Yeah, no, Chris, what a story. I think the most important things, if I can pull out, was that kudos to your parents. Kudos for them exposing you to all of these opportunities, like you said, about reading and opening your mind. And also too, with that, the importance of them letting you find yourself, because you're absolutely right. I think coming from an African family, parents always have a sort of a set idea of what they want their child to be. And there's a lot of pressure on us as African, children to be this particular person who our parents want us to be. So it's really refreshing to hear that your parents kind of were like, okay, we're going to give you the advice, sure, which they did, but ultimately it's up to you, and they kind of gave you those free wings to kind of experience all of these things. So yeah, I think the real MVP MVPs in your story as much as you are. It's definitely your parents, and it's quite interesting and also very inspiring that you had this idea. You spoke about how you always knew from a young age that you wanted to have a scholarship, and it's quite inspiring to hear how laser focused you were to get the scholarship. So quickly, we're gonna dive in a little bit further before we get back into your original masters. How was the experience just generally studying in Russia? You know, for me, I didn't even know that was an option personally until I spoke to Bona or this other guy called Edwin. It's like now shocking to me that people go to Russia to study. I didn't know. So how was that experience for you? Because when I think of Russia, I think of those movies and, you know. So for you personally, how was that transition from Nigeria into this space when you're doing your undergrad? Because you said you were there for 5 years, hey?
Yeah. In 2 words, I would say it was crazy and it was worth it. I don't know how to describe 5 years of, you know, completely different place, different culture, different language, different everything. And it's so different from the world because also, like you said, you didn't know, like, you know, for example, studying in Russia was an option. Generally in the world right now, you know, you have America, US, that's like, you know, always at the top of the media stuff. You have Europe, then you have China, and that's it. No one hears about Russia. No one knows what the hell is going on in
Australia,
Russia.
maybe. Like I hear some chats about Australia. Okay, Australia. So it's it was so new to me that people go to Russia and study. So you're absolutely right.
This mysterious box that no one knows what's going on inside. So it's like me being thrown into there. What helped me was when I was going to Russia, I had no bias or superstitious beliefs in that. And that's probably kudos to my parents too. They always taught me never to follow, superstition or what people think. Like why I'm saying this is because when I was, preparing to go into Russia and people who heard Russia, they were like, oh my God, it's so cold. Vladimir Putin, terrible place to live in, this one, that one and stuff. Of course, there was also the issue of you're black too. Like who knows what's going to be like there. But so this lesson made me, I didn't even think twice about any of them. I was just so happy with my mom too. And my parents were so excited at the prospects of me going. So I remember landing Moscow and the first thing that got me was the cold. Damn, it was cold. Like when we entered the taxi and came out, I couldn't feel my my legs and fingers anymore. So the cold was something to deal with. The culture, I don't think the cultural difference was something so shocking to me because I was very flexible. So I don't know, I wasn't so strict on the Nigerian culture. So I was more into learning the new culture. So the language was something that one had to grasp with, although we had a few months of the language learning, which was interesting and helped us. So basically we had this community. So there were about 63 of us that came to Russia, and they were spaced around different cities in Russia. And coming to Kazan was, I think, 9 of us. So during our language preparatory course, we kind of stuck together, the 9 of us, so we kind of created this community. So that was one thing that helped me, so even though I was in Russia, I didn't feel like, I was alone and stuff like that. So I'm saying this now because I feel the difference in Germany now. Germany, I came on my own. So everything, I feel like I'm on my own right now in Germany. There's no community I came with. So back then there was this those of us that came from Nigeria, so we stuck together. But of course, it didn't take long. We kind of everyone finding their own way in this strange new land. So I also tried to find my way. We started our university studies in Russian, and it just kept going like that. So I think I would just say it was really crazy. There were really crazy moments and in the end it was worth it because it opened my eyes to a lot of things I didn't know. What they say about living in your own bubble, it's really true. We have this we live, we see the people we see, the things we see. We have no idea. There's so much out there that we can't even imagine things going outside your imagination. So I saw it in the Russians, some of the Russians. I saw it. It's about really opening your mind and learning about new things. Yeah, that's how I put it.
No, that's great. You're absolutely right. I think that's the beauty of traveling, the ability for you to get out of your comfort zone, the ability for you to learn things, and you sort of become a better person. So as you said that even though now you're in Germany and it wasn't you kind of alone, I think this is also a very important step for you to become an even better version of yourself. So everything comes with specific lessons, and I think for you currently this is one of them. But you seem to already have, I think you've already got that in tuned, and I can only imagine what's more to come for you. Now, speaking of your work currently and what you're doing, I'm really excited for us to have this conversation because part of a project that you're currently working on is that you're working on a natural language processing for low resource African languages. So I want you to please tell us more about this really exciting project, your involvement, and why is it so important for you to be doing what you're doing?
With pleasure. Where do I start? Okay, let me quickly take you through kind of a background story. So while in Russia doing mathematics is not a really easy course. It's very abstract. And depending on where you are, so for example, in Russia, they have these really high standards, they place for mathematics and really high standards and everything. Of course, the language too is something to comprehend with. Like, it's not so easy receiving lectures in a language that you're not even familiar with. So what I'm trying to say, there was this stage of my life where I was really thinking to myself, what am I doing? What am I doing with this mathematics? What am I planning to do with my life, this thing I'm studying? Of course, I don't want to end up going to become a high school teacher or, that's not why I suffered to travel all this way for. So that was a really important stage of my life because I had to really think and try and find what to do with my life. And that's around when I discovered machine learning. And so I started with the book by Franz Chollet, Chollet's book on deep learning. I was reading it. Then when I went to Coursera with Andrew Ng, a course by Andrew Ng. And so that was when I got into machine learning. It was so fascinating because it was like the perfect mix of maths and computer, and just you're learning maths and you're seeing this practical application in this amazing way. And I was like, wow, I was completely taken in. I was like, this is math stuff. I'm going for this. So I dived into it. Started learn. I remember that moment, like finally, I felt like I had a purpose. I felt like, this class, because before it was like living like a humdrum life, like every day, 8 a.m., brush your teeth, go to school, sit down, looking so depressed. Everyone is depressed. The weather is snowy, so it's even more depressing. Go home by 4 p.m. It's like midnight. Go home, sit down, eat, sleep. No desire to do anything. But then when I found this machine learning, it was like a spark had lit up, like, wow, finally something to, so it was different for me and Bonner too, because we were classmates. We would go to class with our laptops, knocking codes on the laptop. It was so fun. So machine learning gave me like a sense of purpose because I finally saw this is what I want to do. This is what I love doing. It has everything I want. It has the solving a problem, because machine learning and AI is not like a soft thing in the world right now. There's a lot of open challenges that keep, spreading into different other open challenges. So like it has that, it has mathematics there, it has a bit of programming there. So I started with machine learning. I could say we, because me and Bona kind of like were together in the whole thing. We started with trying to give ourselves more experience. So we did some things on computer vision, some things on robotics. I did some things on reinforcement learning. I dabbled into language modeling, then I left it because then computer vision was like the computer vision was so cool because you could see the effects and everything. Then around that time, I started thinking about, I don't know why or what really prompted me, but then I started thinking like, what can I do with this machine learning that I'm learning? And then I started like observing. I sat back and I looked like all these inventions or these cool things being done on machine learning. I was like, first of all, like how many of these people are black, right? There's a few black people there in this thing, which isn't so new because I was used to like seeing very few black people wherever I am. For example, many of the conferences and competitions I went with Bonner, we were the only black people there. It was crazy, and at the point we were like, man, why do we always go for things where we are the only black people? And so I started looking back, like this machine learning that's being done. So there's few black people, okay. Then around that time, I started thinking like, what? I don't know why, but I started thinking, what can I do for Africa? Till now, I don't really know what inspired that. It's probably like a phase. I was like, what can I do to like give back to Africa? Many people, they leave Africa and they're like, goodbye, Africa, I ain't coming back no more. And they just like, forget everything and just focus on their life. And so I was like, what can I do to give back? I leave the continent. I do things, gain knowledge. But at the end, like after traveling around the world, your home is still, your home, your roots. So like maybe instead of thinking of abandoning it, maybe I could, do something, even if it's a tiny thing, just drop it there, do something for the community. So back in university, I was thinking what I can do for Africa. And this is where I now started thinking like African languages. And by then I had entered NLP. And then I was like, African languages. Everyone is talking about big language models and stuff for English. We have Siri and Alexa for English. We have all these big language technologies for English. But where are my African languages? Like where are these African languages being used? I remember checking Google Translate and like really going to look at their list of supported languages and checking the supported African languages. And I found Igbo there. I was quite happy. And I checked the translation. It was quite good. I checked the list of African languages, like 2000. And so that was when I started thinking like something needs to be done for these African languages. It's not just about creating models for them, but something needs to be done to like make them popular on the internet, make them recognized. I don't think it's fair that the world is just, it's good the world is using English, but like, I don't think it's fair that you forget these other languages and their years of culture just because the world is now going towards English. I like what China is doing. Like, no matter what, they stick to their language, stick to their, things, and they find a way around their language. I think it's good. Europe did the same thing of bringing over 20 languages together, and everyone is so happy speaking their language. So I was like, African languages should be like this. We shouldn't just adopt English because we're colonized by English or French and then forget this language, and which is what's happening right now, because like many of the youths, even me also, I didn't grow up in an Igbo community. We used English mostly. So yeah, that's what inspired me to start looking into African languages and NLP. And that's what brought me, one thing led to the other, and here I am now, like doing full research on natural language processing for African languages.
Wow, like this work gets me so excited. When I first heard about it, when I had, I think it's your co-founder, Bonaventure, beginning of, was it last year? And he told me about this work. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And now you guys are soaring, and I love to see it. I get so excited when I see his posts. Like, you guys are soaring and people are realizing the importance, and exactly what you said, that there are all these language processing for English, for whatnot, but we as Africans, you guys saw the importance. And I mean, I think you started with the Fon language, the one from Benin, right?
Yeah.
And I can't wait for it to get bigger. I'm assuming, is that the goal for you to expand into other languages as well?
Yeah.
Of course, right?
Yeah. True. I remember. I don't know. Well, actually, me and Bona kind of in our own separate ways, but I'm the talkative one. So many nights I'll be talking with Bona and I'll be like, man, we should. So I'm the one who likes talking and he would just be smiling. So I remember one time I was asking him like, yo, what's your native language? And he was like, forget that one. Like, you don't see it anywhere. And I was like, just tell me the name. So he was telling me that you can't find much of it on the internet. And I was like, just give me the name. He said the phone or something. I typed on the phone searching, and then I was like, is it this? It was like a Wikipedia article that was talking about the alphabets of phone. And he was like, wow, that's interesting. So that's around when we now, got into this African languages thing, that the fact that you can't find many of them or things on them on the internet.
And it's also pretty cool in terms of the way that I personally envision how great this would be. For example, you've got you and your friend. He's from Benin, you're from Nigeria. Imagine being able to talk in your own native language. And because I also have this where I have friends where, for example, from Zimbabwe and I'm from Malawi, and there's a word in my language which I want to say, and English, I can't find the English word, and even with that English word, it just doesn't describe how I need it to describe. So I'm really excited with that, because the world is getting smaller and smaller, and we are moving in, and we are marrying different cultures. So I cannot wait, because this is literally what we need. This is something that's so important, that's so exciting. And I love how you guys are being recognized. You guys are getting awards. You are being interviewed. Like, this is huge. So you guys have got so many achievements, and I'm so proud of the work that you're doing. I'm so excited for the work that you're doing. And you deserve every single good thing that's coming your way, because it's important. It's so important what you're doing. So just quick, I'm going to give you a moment to brag all these things that have got. I probably haven't even listed most of them. Like, I wish I had a list. But what has been one of your favorite moments of where you're like, oh my goodness, I never thought that me as Chris, I'd be here? Like, in terms of all of the successes, what has been some of your favorite ones, or one of your favorite ones?
To be honest, it's really hard to point at them, because I don't know, all of them, I never thought we would get there. We were just undergraduate students in our tiny beds in a corner of Russia, and just praying. You know when you're praying for something, but you're not really like imagining. You're just like, I hope something like this could happen, but you have no idea if it will happen. So I remember when we were thinking about these African languages and stuff, and we were sharing these ideas that we had for African languages, like keyboards to write, speech you can talk with. They felt like dreams, but now they feel real. And I think of all the achievements and everything, it all culminates into this thing. Like, it feels real now to me, like very, real, and something that we're actually doing. I think that's one thing I'm most grateful for. So, for example, getting into Masakane was an exciting experience, because from there we met this community of really awesome people who treat us like family. And that's also getting our first publication at ICLR. I remember when I was talking with my supervisor in Russia, and we were talking about publishing papers because he saw that we were the only serious ones in the class who wanted to do something machine learning. And I was telling him, well, we could also do this international conference like ICLR, a neuro IPS. And he said, calm down. Let's go and find like normal national conferences, like things in Moscow or stuff like that. I remember, that feeling. So, and even when I was thinking about it, I was just like, okay, maybe in masters I would look there, but we were able to have at least a paper published in the workshop of ICLR, and we had it featured by BBC, and that was really, really big. That was really unexpected. So, and from there we just kept, going on to other paper conferences and other ideas and stuff like that. So that's huge. Also, the Masakane Award of the year was a very huge thing because it's like when the whole Masakane thing we're doing, we are giving it this energy. The energy comes from the community. We're not really looking at what the outside world is saying and stuff like that. We're just from the community. But the award, really helped to show that, some people, if not the world, people in the world are really seeing what we're doing and they really appreciate it. That was really, really, really huge too.
No, I get that. When something is a dream, it's so wild when you're actually living it and you're like, oh my word, I used to dream about this, but here I am. Oh man, Chris, it's been so entertaining hearing you talk and hearing you share that. You can just hear also in you explaining this project, how close it is, how excited you are about it. And just as we close, I wanted to ask you, if somebody is listening to this and is listening to your story, what is some advice that you would give them about getting into science or just pursuing a dream like how you did and getting to the end of it?
So for getting to a dream, I would just say what I did, which is like, it's funny, it's what everyone says, but it's kind of the truth. But in my own words, I would just say, when you have a dream, like no matter what happens, hold on to your dream and your faith. No matter what happens. Well, two things actually. So like, have a final dream, like a long goal, but don't try to have these short expectations like, oh, for me to reach there, I have to get this and get this and get this, because really crazy, life has a way of getting you to that dream in the most craziest way you never expected. When I wanted a scholarship, I was looking at Princeton, MIT. Even till now, I am fascinated with MIT. I was looking in the US for my scholarship. I never expected Russia. But then, so I got this dream I wanted, which is a scholarship, financial independence. You're right, but I didn't get it the way I expected. If I was putting my mind only in US, the times that I got rejection letters from US, I would have given up already. So what I'm saying is, have this dream you want and let the universe believe and let the universe work out the way you get to that dream. So that's what I'm saying. That way, if you have failures along the way, you don't get so demotivated by them. You're just like, okay, well, I'll just try. I still want this end goal. And when it comes in a very crazy way, you're able to see it and you just go for it. So that's my advice to generally people pursuing a passion that you're interested in. For those in STEM, well, science is a really interesting place, just like, any other subject. The cool thing about science is that it expands on your creativity. So science is a place to just go wild with your imaginations. Just like in art, when you're writing stories and poetry, you can go wild with your imaginations. So I guess the simple thing I would say is, be sure that's what you have a passion for. I think passion, as funny as it sounds, it's really the thing that pushes people going. So if you have a passion for science or anything science related, just go for it and just keep trying with it. Read about it, learn about it, and always ask yourself, how can I contribute to this thing? Okay, you don't want to just be just coming and going in the wave. You wanna, if it's Bonner, he says, I wanna leave my mark. Bonner always says that I wanna leave my mark on the wall of something. So what I'm trying to say, you wanna do something that you wanna contribute in a way. It doesn't have to be something so big. You don't have to be Albert Einstein or any of these big people. No. The tiniest thing you're doing in your tiny room, in your tiny community, in your tiny place, it matters as much as what people are doing in other big places or countries. So just find what you're passionate about in STEM or not in STEM. Find a little way that you're contributing and just keep doing it. And as long as you're happy with it, everyone's happy. That's my advice in general, I think.
I love that. And I hope that people take that in. Sometimes just because you've got a specific idea, it comes to you in a different way, and you kind of just need to I think you need to have the discernment to be like, oh, this is actually what I asked for. Yes, it's not in the red package that I asked for, but it's coming in a brown package, but it's still what I asked for. And I think sometimes people, like you said, that if you fixated on one particular thing, you can miss out on a great opportunity. And who knows, maybe if you didn't look at Russia, you would have never met Bonaventure, and you would have never gone here. So there's a lot of things. And I personally believe that everything happens for a reason. And this is only the beginning for you, obviously. And thank you so much for your time, for everything that you guys are doing. It's a pleasure to watch, and I am like the biggest fan. So all of the best.
Thank you very much. It's really wonderful hearing this from you, because it's really wonderful hearing this, because it gives us the sense that we're really doing something that's helpful in the least. So it also gives us the motivation to keep trying and find more ways to expand on it. So thank you so much. And thank you very much for the podcast and allowing me to share my story and ideas and everything. I'm so grateful.
It's an absolute pleasure. And definitely we'll talk in a few years' time when you are able to have more translations, and I can speak in Chichewa and you can speak in your native tongue, and we can practice it using.
I like that. I have a dream world in my head. Yeah. So I don't know if you've watched Space Sweepers.
No,
it's a movie on Netflix. It's a really interesting movie. And what's interesting about it, get this, everyone in the movie is talking in their language.
Wow.
Everyone, the Polish, the Chinese, the French, the even Swahili, all, of course, they were not Swahili, I don't know, but everyone is speaking in their own language. So they can understand each other in their own language. Yeah. And for you, the viewer watching the movie, they also the subtitle in English. So that has always, like, that movie where I was like, wow, I always had this dream world in my head, but like seeing it so well in this movie, because I mean, it's been there before, like Star Trek, I think, had a scene where, this universal translator, but they always make it look like it's one device or something. But the movie didn't even like show the device, it just showed like this is the way of life here. And that's the dream I have for the world, like a way of life where everyone is confident and comfortable in their own language, or however you wish to express yourself. You just express yourself. You're not worried that someone will not understand you and will be afraid of you because of that or something like that. So you just express yourself as you want, and everyone like understands themselves in this crazy way. So that's the dream, and I'm working on it.
Oh no, it's definitely, I think it's going to happen. Like we said, maybe not exactly as planned, but somehow, some way, you guys are going to figure out an idea, and I'm really excited to watch it. And once again, thank you so much for coming on, and to everybody else who's tuned in, thank you for listening to another episode of the Root of the Science podcast with your girl Anne with an E. Until next time,